What's up YouTube, Johnny Gas with another video. It's been a while since I posted a video. I'm sorry. A lot of electrical problems, unfortunately. Headlights and windshield wipers. I have a subscriber that I told him I was gonna make him a video on how I got this thing wired up to the OBS wiring. As you can tell, I got a pile of wires still. This is literally for all of the gauges that I do not have hooked up. Let's see here. This connector down here on your OBS is gonna have a few wires coming out of it. I believe to like the fuel pump, the rear. This one right here. Anyways, it's got a pink wire coming out. I gotta clean up all these wires still. There's a red wire coming out and a purple wire coming out. My starter is hooked up from this purple wire straight back to the starter solenoid for key on power to start it. I tried to wire it through the fuse box. I got the Tahoe fuse box. I have not pulled any of the fuses out that I don't need yet, unfortunately. I'll go ahead and pull this cover off. I had to modify this cover a little bit to make it around the ABS module and the fender and whatnot. The red wire coming from the OBS, I made a fusible link with two smaller gauge wires, hooked it to this pin right here. This is key on power. I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, it might be 12 volts all the time. I believe that is pin number 2. Okay, this wire right here is for the TCC signal, so it's like bypass, so that way nothing, no third gear takeoffs. This purple wire right here, I actually need to de-pin it. I just haven't gotten to it. That's the old starter relay wire. I did have all of these wired, or all these wires labeled. I was going to cut them. I wasn't originally going to use this fuse box, but I did. The connectors from the Tahoe, I actually just cut them off, yay big. This red connector right here, it just has one gray wire coming out of it. That is for the fuel pump relay. I actually have it wired up. My wire's a little long. It goes directly to the fuel pump, like all the way back, goes to a little connector down here, right there to be exact. These little cluster of wires right here, some of them are needed, some of them aren't. I have quite a few of them taped off, to be honest, but I have a couple wires wired up through that. That way I get a signal for the engine light. It's all wired in. I actually used the old license plate light for my engine light. It comes on. The ODB2 reader is right here. But if you use this fuse box from your LS swap, me personally, I think it makes it a little bit easier. I mean, you have a lot more wires you have to go through, but it totally works. Like, all these are the sensors and everything feeding down to the computer or to the sensors. There's literally just a couple of wires right here. I believe this is the power wire for the engine light. TCC. Ignition wire from the OBS. Red wire going to a fusible link to that peg. All these are sensors, coolant temp sensor, oil sending unit, alternator, but I don't know if I have an issue somewhere else, or if it just does it for some reason when I turn the key on. I'll just show you. Gotta move this out of the way. Battery gauge. Fuel gauge does work. So my battery gauge works, and when I start it even goes up to 14 volts. But I also just noticed this today that I haven't noticed. Wait for my in-dash to do with the beep boop beep boop thing. I've replaced the headlight switch 3 times. Now I have working headlights, parking lights. My parking lights work when I turn the key on, and now this happens. Headlights on. Radio on. Now it's off. As far as fuel pump, I have a fuel pump out of a 96 OBS Chevy with a Vortec. Puts out 60 PSI. Extended my fuel pump wires so that way I can plug it in. My fuel lines come out, go through my bed. Yes, my fuel tank is in the back. This is just temporary until I get my fuel cell, but my truck sits too low to be able to have a fuel tank in it. Took my roll pan off, put my bumper back on. But as far as the swap, I have Tahoe radiator, custom radiator support mount, you dig. Left the ears on there. Right now I'm using this. Got to order a cold air intake for this so that way I can delete the factory Tahoe goofy airbox thing. That filter's popped. Mass airflow sensor. My wiring for it super freaking long. Wasn't sure exactly where I was gonna run my filter at. This is from the Tahoe. Tried to mount it as level as I could. It's got a little bracket on the back of it to be able to slide it on 2 pegs. Assuming it's universal. I just put 2 10mm bolts in my fender with some nuts on it. Slid it on there, bolted right on. I got them. It's like a Dirty Dingo motor mount, but it's not Dirty Dingo brand. Ooh. I think I might have melted something. Oopsie. This is my first LS swap. Don't judge me. It is what it is. That red top controls my underglows and bed lights and whatever other lights I have. I took my original battery tray from right here, mounted it there, shaved it off. Unfortunately, as you can tell, it's just a little bit too short. I need to slide it over a little bit further from the fender so the hinge doesn't hit it anymore. My windshield wipers did not work due to the fact of this one gray wire that originally came out of this area from the OBS wiring harness. I cut literally every wire off of the pigtail plugs that go to the computer of the OBS, and I deleted the AC, which unfortunately when you delete the AC, if you take the power wire with the AC wires, you have no heater controls. But as you can tell, I also have no heat right now. I broke my heater core. It's a little messed up. This power wire right here actually feeds the headlights power. That gray wire, as I was saying, it runs to a separate plug. I already have my dash and everything back together, where I'd be able to show you. I actually de-pinned this wire and just hooked it up to the other half of the wire that came from the wiper motor itself. And I just put, you know, plugged them in, put some heat shrink around it, and tucked it away and called it good. That's my antenna wire. Yeah, this red wire originally came off one of these pegs. This is your junction block on your OBS. I highly recommend taking pictures because I played hell trying to find what wire was what, you know, that ran to whatever. These are the fusible links. This one runs to the headlights. It wasn't long enough to reach to the battery, and I didn't want it to run directly from the battery power. So I ran this power wire. I still need to hide it. It's only held up with a couple zip ties. It comes around, and I have it tied to the back of the alternator on that nut. There it is. Both of them are on there. And then it just feeds power from, you know, the battery. How it was originally hooked up in the Tahoe is how exactly I have it hooked up in the OBS. Fuel pump, or not fuel pump, power steering pump. The lines from the Tahoe, I actually cut the end off of one and stuck a hose clamp on it for the gearbox on the OBS. And then the other one, the fitting is the exact same size, threads and all. So I just bent it just a little bit so it kind of sit out the way and wouldn't rub this or anything. But like I said, plug is in, plug and play. Love it. Took me a hell of a lot longer to do this swap than I wanted to, but first time. Don't give yourself a budget, you're gonna go over it. This purple wire was my starter wire. I cut it originally to make it shorter, try to hook it up to the fuse box. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. So I had to tie it in and reroute it all the way around to the starter. If you got the fly-by-wire, I highly recommend paying attention to where this wire runs over to your little accelerator pedal box, module, whatever you want to call it. Mine is a little tight. I didn't know what the hell that was, to be honest with you. I had it set to the side, loomed everything up, taped it all up, sealed. Forgot to plug the gas pedal in. So that's why that's tight. I'm just doing too many things, start a new job, everything. So a little bit at a time, slowly but surely. It still runs and drives, gets me from point A to point B. Loud as shit. Done got pulled over for my exhaust being too loud. It was actually, you know, had sport mode. Just kidding. Yeah, all these wires just kind of tuck back up underneath here. Try to do this with one hand. It's not impossible. Actually, I was in a go-kart accident 12 years ago or so and broke my forearm bone. Was in a cast for like 9 months. Had to do everything one-handed. Work and all. And there's that. I'll try and set my phone right here and see if I can get it started up. It's probably gonna be loud as shit. Let's see. cold start is loud. Oh, as far as the fuel lines for the fuel pump, I had to rerun them. I used rubber fuel line and 6A in fittings. Ran them all the way up to the fuel rail. I got the feed in the return with the fuel pressure regulator. Not the prettiest, but it does the job. Gauges. Speedometer did not work. Your original OBS speedometer wires are the same color as the wires off of the Tahoe. So if you're using a 4L60, you could totally splice the wires. That's what I did on this. So now my speedometer works using the Tahoe harness just spliced in. That actually runs through your glove box along with the wiper motor and the power wire for the headlights, the AC, and the AC and heater. That's what I meant, AC and heater. Battery gauge, see what it's running, it's 14. Fuel gauge works, speedometer works. No oil pressure, no coolant temp sensor. I got a clutch fan. I did all the maintenance, you know, when I had the motor in the Tahoe. So I know when it's running hot, when it's not running hot. It honestly doesn't run hot. The coolant reservoir stays the same fucking level all the time. But yeah, she's a work in progress. Guess my speedometer works as an RPM gauge sometimes. So that's that. Sorry for this really long video. I wasn't trying to make it this long. I hope you guys stayed to the end. Hope this information helps out a little bit. Till next time, Johnny Gaz out.